if I told you the internet, this massive, global, supposedly infinite thing, has basically collapsed into 5 websites? Like, think about your actual day. You wake up, you check your phone, you're on Instagram or Twitter, you search something on Google, it sends you to YouTube. You need to buy something, you go to Amazon. To know what people think about something, you go to Reddit. That's it. That's the internet for most people in 2026. And the crazy part, the internet technically has over 1 billion websites. 1 billion. But something like 90% of all web traffic flows through a handful of platforms. The rest is a ghost town. So how did this happen? Because it wasn't always like this. In the early 2000s, the internet was genuinely weird and decentralized. People had personal websites, there were thousands of forums for every niche imaginable, blogs were a real thing, not just SEO content farms, actual people writing actual thoughts. There was this sense that the internet belonged to everyone. Then the platforms showed up and made everything easier. Why maintain your own website when Facebook gives you a free one? Why build an audience from scratch when YouTube puts you in front of millions of people? The deal seemed great, and for a while, it was. But what happened is what always happens when something is free. The real product was never the platform. It was you. Your attention, your data, your content, and your network. You built it and they monetized it. And once everyone was on the same 5 platforms, the network effect became a trap. You can't just leave Facebook because everyone you know is on Facebook. You can't leave YouTube because there's nowhere else with that kind of audience. The switching costs became way too high. Meanwhile, the open web got strangled. Google started prioritizing big brands in search of results, and small bloggers and independent websites got buried. Now here's where it stops being just an interesting tech story and starts being a real problem. When 5 companies control the infrastructure of information, they control the narrative. And we're not talking about some shadowy conspiracy theory. It's a very mundane, algorithmic terms of service issue. Think about what's happened to creators. People who spent years building an audience on YouTube only to get demonetized because their content was advertiser unfriendly, which is just a polite way of saying it made somebody uncomfortable. Or journalists and activists who got suspended from X for posting factual information that happened to conflict with whatever was politically convenient that week. Accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers gone overnight. The algorithm just doesn't care about truth. It cares about clicks. And underneath all of this is the data problem. Every single thing you do on these platforms is recorded. Not just what you post, but what you hover over, how long you pause on a video, what you almost searched and then deleted. They build a psychological profile of you that's more detailed than anything your therapist has. And then they sell that access to that profile to anyone who will pay for it. Advertisers, sure, but also political campaigns, insurance companies, data brokers who resell it to God knows who. You agreed to this, technically. Somewhere in a 50,000 word terms of service that nobody reads is a paragraph that covers it all. That's the deal. That's what freedom costs. The internet was never supposed to work this way. It was meant to be a resilient, distributed, and censorship-proof system. It was literally designed by ARPANET to survive a nuclear strike, with the idea that no single point of failure could bring it down. And then we just handed it over to 5 big companies with login pages. I think a lot of people feel like something is wrong with the normal internet, but can't quite name it. It feels smaller than it used to be, more controlled, like the walls have suddenly closed in. And that's because they have. And here's the thing, this isn't some unsolvable problem. The technology to fix it has existed for years. We just haven't had the will or the right infrastructure to actually use it. That's where Web3 comes in. And I know that word has a lot of baggage. Crypto bros, NFT monkey pictures, promises that never delivered. But strip all that away and the core idea is genuinely important. What if the internet ran on infrastructure that nobody owned? No central servers, no single company holding the keys, just a distributed network where the users are the network. That's how blockchain-based systems actually work. And when you apply that architecture not just to currency, but to data storage, to publishing, to communication, you get something that looks a lot like what the internet was supposed to be in the first place. In other words, there's no data being harvested and sold on Web3 because the architecture just does not support it. That's the future of the internet, and it revolves around rethinking digital sovereignty and what that should look like going forward. If this video resonated with you, hit that subscribe button, share it with someone who'd get it, and I'll see you in the next one.